everyone. Welcome once again to The Blueprints. This is Canada's Conservative Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Schmale, Member of Parliament for Haliburton and Kawartha Lakes, with new content for you every single Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this program. Tell your friends to download it on platforms like CastBox, iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. On today's show, we are going to be talking about Canada's unemployment rate. It's on the way back up again, sadly. To do this and much, much more, we bring back Cal Seeback, the Member of Parliament for Dufferin-Caledon, also the Critic for Labour. Thanks for coming back on.
Good to be back.
It's been a while.
It has. I think it's been almost a year.
Yeah, we were prorogued for a good chunk of that.
That's right.
Oh, it was kind of weird times.
Yeah, someone did that. I forget
who was that?
Justin...
Some guy named Trudeau, I think, or something like that. Yeah, so that was like a good, 4 or 5 months?
Yeah, it was.
And there was nothing going on there. There was no crises and
nothing.
Trade war or conflicts around the world.
Yeah.
So there's nothing really to talk about anyway in Parliament, so we didn't miss anything.
No, I mean, typical Justin just sort of ran away.
Yeah, he just ran away. Yeah. There's fires burning all over the world, and he just shuts it down.
That's right.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
And because there's a crisis in the Liberal Party, he saved himself and I guess his party from either further criticism because it was just shut down.
That's right.
And the executive branch handled it from there, and here we are.
Yep.
And now we had a vote, I guess last week, where the NDP sided with the Liberals. Look at that. The coalition is back and running.
Shocked.
No budget before summer.
That's right.
So we don't, even though we were prorogued at an election, we don't really want to work during the summer. So the NDP and the Liberals.
Nope.
And give Canadians a budget and get an idea of where this country's going.
Exactly. And he's the guy that was supposed to be the planner, right?
He had a plan.
The so-called, expert banker who was coming with a plan, no slogans, a plan.
Right. Canada's new government.
And now he's, planning not to actually deliver a budget. It's pretty remarkable, actually.
It is. And when Canadians are seeing all this money going out the door through the estimates process and other means, there is no real blueprint on how we are going to, where the country is going to steer towards.
Yep.
But now we have the unemployment rate going into the summer months.
Yeah.
On the way up. Youth unemployment's out of control.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It is bad. There's a chart right there showing what it looks like, 7%.
Yeah. And if you look at regionals, right, because there's still parts of the country that are doing reasonably well, but if you look at some of the regional numbers, they're terrible. Like in Ontario, we're now the worst level of unemployment since 2008, which was the big global recession, if people remember. And in my part of the world, the GTA, we're at almost 9%. 9% unemployment. And yet, from data we've seen, we brought in 817,000 newcomers into Canada during a period of high unemployment, which is also completely irresponsible.
Yeah, we should be judging those numbers accordingly based on what the labor market has.
That's right.
Accessible, healthcare, our education system, housing. There's another issue. Housing's like a big mess right now. People can't afford to buy. People can't afford to sell, and builders can't afford to build. It's a weird dynamic.
Yeah, and you would think that that's the time to actually lay out your plan.
Yes.
Put a budget in front of Parliament, in front of Canadians to tackle all of these issues. Instead, what they're saying is approve $486 billion worth of spending without a budget. Mm-hmm.
Trust us.
Yeah, it's remarkably offensive.
And they say they use the word even during the pandemic, the election campaign, it was a crisis, right? Because there's a trade war, there's a crisis. So they keep using a crisis. Of course, when they didn't produce a budget during COVID, it was a crisis.
Yep.
Even though in the past we've had budgets during wars, economic downturns, and everything like that. But
why aren't they producing a budget?
Exactly.
It's sort of like, maybe I'm a little suspicious of this government because of some of the things they've done over the last 10 years. But to me, it seems like there's things they don't want to show. Look, I remember under Stephen Harper, we were criticized when during the economic crisis of 2008, I think the deficit hit something like $20 or $21 billion. And we were heavily criticized for that. These guys routinely in good economic times are, $40, $50 billion deficits. And as I said on the campaign trail, I asked people, with all this spending, doubling the national debt, what do you consider to be better in Canada now? And no one had anything to say because really nothing is better.
No, I think the quality of life, let's put up the other graphic that shows, highest in 9 years, the unemployment rate. That's That's not good going into the summer. Like, what is better? Crime's out of control, housing is a mess, immigration is broken, and you just go down the line.
Yeah, and we haven't even talked about the TD Bank report that says they estimate 100,000 job losses are still coming in Canada this year, which will really put those unemployment numbers up. So it's a pretty gloomy economic picture, which again, in times when they're tough, you would think the best thing you need is a plan, and a plan includes a budget.
Yes, absolutely. And you also need to get your spending under control to try to bring down this inflationary crisis.
That's correct.
And the Liberals just seem to be loving that credit card.
They do. Yeah.
And the youth, my goodness, youth unemployment rate's high.
Yes.
And then you're hitting them with this debt and deficit that they're going to be responsible for.
That's correct. And bringing in a lot of temporary foreign workers that are taking a lot of the, like, if you look at how they break down the categories, it's actually in the low wage category that we have the most temporary foreign workers. So they're actually taking away the jobs from our youth and students and others who want to have jobs in the summer to pay for a university or have some spending money during the school year. So the plan that they're putting forward is really not working for Canadians.
Absolutely. And of course, as we all know, when there's more people than there are jobs, especially in the low wage category, you push down. Those wages never go up.
That's correct.
Because they have just an abundance of supply.
Yes.
And that, again, hurts our young people.
Yeah.
And so when you're getting hit with increased prices on absolutely everything, but no wage growth on the lower end, that is absolutely concerning. That means the economy will slow down because you don't have that disposable income, because that gap just gets smaller and smaller.
And that's also how people end up going to food banks.
That's right. Yeah. And we, 2 million Canadians a month now are hitting the food banks?
Yeah. 1 million Ontarians used food bank in the last year. Now, if you contrast that with 2015, the last year the Conservatives were the government, it was 350,000. So they've tripled the number of people in Ontario that use a food bank. And that's bad enough, but actually gets worse because, again, back in 2015, about 8% of the people that used food banks in Ontario, they were full-time employees. Now,
good point.
Now, 25%.
That's crazy.
So they've tripled the number of people who have full-time employment and have to use a food bank to put food on the table. Like, this is a crisis. It
Absolutely.
really is.
It should be talked about more, and the media seems to yawn about it.
They do.
I guarantee if this happened under a Conservative watch, it would be, full-on morning, noon, and night coverage.
They'd be at the food banks.
Oh, yeah, interviewing everyone.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. There'd be round tables and, newscasters losing their mind. But also, to your comment earlier, and let's queue up cut one because we do have you in the house asking about this question. As you said, full-time workers, and a lot of those that are working full-time, it's the first time ever using the food bank. Those numbers are out of control, too.
That's right. Yeah. These are disastrous numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go to your question here. Let's play cut one.
Dental care, farmer care, all of these programs have reduced child poverty by 38% since 2015, seniors poverty down by 30% since 2015. All these things the Conservatives have voted against.
We voted against all the policies that led to 1 million Ontarians using a food bank. They should all be ashamed of themselves that that's their performance. Meanwhile, TD Bank has now said up to 100,000 Canadians will lose their job this year. And guess what? They refuse to produce a budget.
And, of course, the NDP, who said they were not going to go along with the Liberals, are going along with the Liberals and will not see a budget this summer.
What's amazing to me is when you talk about the number of people visiting a food bank, you get these terrible, Prime Minister office written lines that they read out in question period as if these things somehow have solved the problem. But they haven't solved the problem because people are actually using the food bank with these alleged amazing programs. So if the programs were working, as they keep saying, we've done this, we've done that, if it was working, then why would the number of people using a food bank have tripled in a decade?
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's just, and they don't seem to get it.
Well, they get it, but their solution to one failed government program is yet another government program.
That's right.
And I think this is as we're seeing in the projected deficit, that's showing what they're spending it on. They're just ramping up the inflationary spending.
Yeah. And, the problem is that Canadians have gotten poorer. So when you're poor as a result of their policies, I'm sure you've talked on your show many times about per capita GDP. In, around 2014, there was a New York Times article that said Canada, the richest middle class in the world.
That's right, yes.
And because per capita GDP in Canada had crept up to just a little bit above the United States. And 10 years later, we're now 25% behind.
Yeah.
So when you have that, and then you have massive food inflation and other inflation from government spending, you end up with record numbers of people going to the food bank. And these guys think the answer is to double down on the policies that have got us into the trouble and the mess we're in now.
Yeah, no growth in the economy. Let's put up that graphic here from the food professor that is showing the increases since 2025. Like, look at this stuff. Yeah. Like, people are struggling as it is. So now people, I bet, that are on the margins here, well, forget beef.
Yeah.
Right? Apples and oranges.
Yeah.
Probably a tough one. Even chicken's up 6%. Stuff you can go to the grocery store and get it cooked. Well, that's going up again.
Yeah.
People are going to be going without some pretty big staples here.
Yeah.
In the diet.
Yeah, look, I saw a post on Instagram that had a steak from an American grocery store and a steak at a Canadian grocery store. They were both ribeyes, both, same weight, AAA beef. The American one was around $18. The Canadian one was around $51 or $52. I mean, it's just,
incredible.
We wonder why people can't afford to buy food. It's because of all these factors, but food has gotten very expensive. And the finance minister, when he was industry minister, he said, I've brought in a grocery code of conduct. This is going to reduce the price of groceries. I mean, it didn't.
He's doing a bang-up job.
Yeah. And the amazing thing is you fail upwards in the Liberal Party.
Yeah, they all get promoted.
Yeah.
It's the same front bench.
Yeah.
As it was under Trudeau.
It's like a Dilbert comic almost, although I've dated myself saying a Dilbert comic. But, I mean, failure, you just fail up.
Yeah,
in that party.
It's really weird, and the media, some of the elitist pundits, they don't seem all that concerned about. Maybe because they're not affected. I'm guessing that's the reason why. Because the amount of hurt that's out there, and you see drug overdoses, the death that's happening on our streets from people who can't find treatment, the widespread crime increase. This is having an effect, and I'm shocked, as you said earlier, the Liberals just repeat these talking points. I'm surprised they can do it with little to no discomfort.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they must be getting the same calls and emails we are.
But they also must live, presumably, in the same towns and cities that we live in and understand the pressures that are going on. And to think that the answer is to just double down, triple down on the same failed policies is just, it's a remarkable sort of arrogance that somehow they know better than everybody else, that our, people's lived experience through this doesn't matter because they've got some statistics that say things are better.
Yeah.
All the issues that have been talked about, they're really not addressing. Whether it's inflation, they're going to continue to have massive deficits. We know that increases inflationary pressure. They're not really making any significant changes in bail reform or other things. So the person that robs the car in the morning is out in the afternoon to rob again. They're not making changes that are going to have a significant impact. So they're going to have a bit of a honeymoon, sure, but Canadians are going to realize that these are the same people that have done the damage to Canada over the last decade, sooner or later.
And one thing we haven't touched on, and we are running out of time, but even their plans to grow the economy, you hear the comments just a little while ago from the Prime Minister and his ministers, that if it's deemed in the national interest or it's deemed a worthy project, but then you have to ask the politicians first, right? So if the Liberal government signs off, if you funnel enough money to the Liberals and their friends, well, maybe you might get approval. Yeah. But then they still leave it up to the provinces to decide.
And then there has to be consensus on top of it, which, try and get something done on your street with, on consensus.
It never happens.
It's not going to happen. At some point, someone has to actually make a decision. So I think that's also going to be a problem with their economic plan.
Yeah, they need to grow the economy, right? They need to start these jobs and raise wages, but you can't do that when inflation is eating up any potential wage gains you might even get in this atmosphere.
Inflation's eating up all the wage gains, 100%. And taxes at all levels of government always seem to go up. So it's making it harder and harder for everyone to make ends meet.
It is. Kyle, we're pretty much out of time.
All right.
As you know, the guests always get the last word, so the floor is yours.
I think that Canadians should judge the Liberals and Mark Carney on his performance. He said, judge me on the price at the grocery store. Well, that's already an abysmal failure. Let's see if we've got anything, if crime gets better over the next 6 months. Let's see if grocery prices go down. Let's see if the unemployment rate goes down. And I hope Canadians will look at that and realize that this is the same government as it was under Justin Trudeau. One face has changed, the rest is all the same, and the policies are the same.
Yeah, and it's hurting Canadians.
You bet.
Kyle Seeback, thank you very much for your time. Member of Parliament for Dufferin-Caledon, also the critic for Labour. Thank you for your time as well. This is an important message, so please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Download it on platforms like CastBox, iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. Tell your friends too. New content for you every single Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Until next week, remember, low taxes, less government, more freedom. That's the blueprint.